Okay, here we go with problems 15, 16, and 17. So problem number 15, you have four choices, A, B, C, and D. It gives you a recursive definition. They all seem to start with 16. And then when we look at this one here, to get the next one, you would start with the previous one and multiply by 4. For this one, to get to the next one, you would start with the current one and you would multiply by 1/4, or in other words, divide by 4. Here, to get to the next number in the sequence, you would take the current one and add 4. Here you would subtract 4. So let's go back and look at the answers and work backwards from there. 4 plus 4 is 8, plus another 4 is 12, plus another 4 is 16. So the initial value is 16. And we're subtracting 4 each time. 1024, 256, 64. It appears to be dividing by 4 to work backwards, and that's in fact what it is. So if we have a 16 here, so its initial value is 16 times 4, 64 times 4, 256 times 4. Here seems to be adding 4 each time, or if we worked backwards, so we're subtracting 4. So this is adding 4 every time. This is multiplying by 4. And 4 divided by 4 would be 1. 1 divided by 4 would be 1/4. So if we work backwards, we again start with a 16 for our initial values. So this one's subtracting 4 every time. So that would be this one here. You take the current value, you subtract 4 to get to the next one. And we started with a 16. So letter D matches number 1. Number 2, we're adding 4 every time. So we look at all these ones here. This one is the one that would add 4 every time. So that's number 2. And number 3 is multiplying by 4. That would be this idea right here. So that's 3. And this one is dividing by 4 every time. So this would be number 4, 1/4 times the previous one. For problem 16, find the 5th term in the sequence in number 15C. So number 15C is this one here, which matches number 2. So I'm going to go with number 2. If I made the table out of this, this would be the 0 term, or the initial value, first, second, third. This would be the 4th term and the 5th term. If I'm adding 4 every time, 28 plus 4 is 32. 32 plus 4 is 36. So my answer is 36. It then asks you to write an explicit equation for each sequence. So this one here is multiplying by 4, letter A. Oh, sorry. This is number 1. So number 1, I am subtracting 4 every time. So we would write it as T of n is equal to the initial value, and then I subtract 4 every time. So since that's what I'm doing every time, I will make that the n. For number 2, I'm adding 4 every time, so I would just change this to a plus 4n rather than a subtracting 4n. So my initial value plus 4n. For number 3, I'm multiplying by 4 every time, so my initial value is again 16, and I'm multiplying by 4 every time, so it's 4 to the nth. This one is division by 4, which is the same idea as multiplying by 1/4. So the initial value is 16, and I multiply by 1/4 every time. So 1/4 to the n means I keep dividing by 4.